he talks about instead of asking for कि हमारे माँ बाप ने ये नहीं करा वो नहीं करा, can you be a good son or a good daughter? September reading list इन ड्यू टाइम, ताकि आप किताबों को एक्चुअली पढ़ पाएं। 4 किताबें जिन्होंने मेरे मन को व्यस्त रखा है, मेरी इंटेलेक्चुअल क्यूरोसिटी को सेशिएटेड रखा है, उनमें से एक ये किताब है जॉन विलियम्स की स्टोनर। डू नॉट कंफ्यूज दिस, ये किसी नशेड़ी के बारे में नहीं है। इट इज एक्चुअली अबाउट एन एकेडमिक कॉल्ड स्टोनर। विलियम स्टोनर की कहानी है, रिटन बाय दिस गाय कॉल्ड जॉन विलियम्स वेरी ऑब्वियसली। ये एक फिक्शनल कहानी है जिसको मैंने एक्चुअली अगस्त के एंड में पढ़ना शुरू करा था। यूजुअली फिक्शन इज वेरी फास्ट पेस, जैसे मैंने इस चैनल पे एडवोकेट करा है, चक पॉलनिक की किताबें भी बड़ी फास्ट होती हैं मोस्ट। दिस इज अ स्लो बट अ वेरी कॉन्टेम्पलेटिव रीड ऑन द अटरली अनइवेंटफुल लाइफ ऑफ अ करियर अकेडमिक। ये आदमी होता है, ये खेती बाड़ी करने वाले माँ बाप का बेटा होता है अमेरिका के अंदर, किसी पिछड़ी हुई साउथ की स्टेट के अंदर वहाँ की, और कोई बोलता है यार तेरी अच्छी इंग्लिश है, तू इंग्लिश का टीचर बन सकता है। तो इसकी जिंदगी की कहानी है। इट इज़ रिमार्केबल टू सी कि जब एक्सटर्नल इवेंट्स इतने ज़्यादा नहीं होते तो व्हाट इज़ द माइंड ऑफ अ मैन लुक लाइक, एंड वो इंटरनल इवेंट्स आप फिक्शन में कैसे पढ़ा सकते हो। इट्स अ सैड बट ब्यूटीफुल बुक। यहाँ पे ये लिखा है न्यूयॉर्क टाइम्स ने, स्टोनर इज अ परफेक्ट नॉवल, सो वेल टोल्ड एंड ब्यूटीफुली रिटन, सो डीपली मूविंग दैट इट टेक्स योर ब्रेथ अवे। फिर जूलियन बार्न्स, जो भी ये आदमी है, कह रहा है अ टेरिफिक नॉवल ऑफ echoing sadness. So yeah, it's got meditations on falling in love with the wrong woman, not being extroverted enough to fight for your position at the university, and just accepting life as it comes. बिल्कुल ही मतलब सरेंडर के साथ इसका ये स्टाइल है। आई थिंक यू विल एंजॉय दिस बुक इफ यू आर लुकिंग फॉर अ फिक्शन रिकमेंडेशन। हाईली सजेस्ट यू चेक आउट स्टोनर। द अदर बुक recommended to me by the owner of the place I was staying at in Leh, fantastic place called Indus River Valley. If you've ever had time, Indus River Valley camp, do check it out. It's called The Great Game on Secret Service in High Asia by Peter Hopkirk. ये बात उस समय की है जो ये लेह लद्दाख वाला सारा सिस्टम है, सारा एरिया है, उसके ऊपर का भी एरिया, यहाँ पे किस तरह से चाइनीज स्पाई, रशियन स्पाइज, इंडियंस एस्पियोनाज करते थे, घुसपैठियों की तरह इंफॉर्मेशन कवर करना, ये करना वो करना। इनफैक्ट मेरे को याद है इसका एक रैंडम पेज खोलना, इट्स अ हिस्ट्री बुक, एंड बीइंग ब्लोन अवे बाय द फैक्ट कि इनके एक दिन में 200 घोड़े मर रहे थे एंड दे वर ऑन अ डेथ मिशन, समथिंग लाइक दैट। इट्स वेरी वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग, हैज a bunch of different characters. ब्रिटिश एम्पायर की कहानी है, रशियन स्पाइस की कहानी है, चाइनीज स्पाइस की कहानी है, इंडियंस, मुस्लिम्स, इसके अंदर सब कुछ है। You know, I'm excited to read this as well. It's a history book. It's been a while since I've actually picked up a history book, so I'm going to read what it says on the back. For nearly a century, the two most powerful nations on earth, Victorian Britain and Tsarist Russia, fought a secret war in the lonely passes and deserts of Central Asia. Those engaged in this shadowy struggle called it the Great Game, a phrase immortalized in Kipling's Skim. When the play first began, the two rival empires lay nearly 2,000 miles apart. By the end, some Russian outposts were within 20 miles of India. So, should take place all across Central Asia. You can imagine, agar if you are someone who enjoys the thrill of like a fast-paced film with the factuality of history, look no further than this book, The Great Game by Peter Hopkirk. Now, the other book that I've been reading time to time is a book actually gifted to me by a former dear friend of mine, and it's called The Things You Can See Only When You Slow Down by a South Korean monk and Zen teacher called Heyman Sunim. This book, मैं इसको I keep it by my bedside and I try to read it as often as I can. छोटी meditations हैं on love, relationships, life, why we are in such a hurry. They should put you at ease, because मुझे भी याद है I usually have a proclivity for Eastern wisdom, but बड़ा कई बार ऐसा हो जाता है the books that I find myself reading don't often have it in a very accessible format, because Sunim has been educated in the US as well. Iski audience दुनिया में, he's got a global audience. He makes a lot of sense. In fact, one of the things he says about love, if it's even a little bit hesitation, it is in love. Talks about how it's very important when you start things, you start them well, and when you end them well as well. Just a bunch of examples about life, about things in general, about how कई बार हम इतने attracted हो जाते हैं नए नए लोगों को अपने social circle में attract करने के लिए that we completely forget the rocks or pillars that our family and friends are. And you know, he talks about instead of asking for कि हमारे माँ बाप ने ये नहीं करा वो नहीं करा, can you be a good son or a good daughter? So you know, I mean, I'm just saying a bunch of things that I remember from the book, but I think you will like it, especially if you're someone who enjoys getting reminders for an idle kind of life, जिस तरह तुम जीना चाहते हो, like a more meditative, slower, quieter life. The fourth book that is a bonus rather, because I just started reading it, A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle. अगर आप लोगों ने The Infamous Power of Now नहीं पढ़ी है, this is the sequel to that book. Rather the sequel, हाँ, because practicing the power of now was the accompaniment to the power of now. Picked up A New Earth in Rishikesh earlier this year, and I just started reading it. I am blown away by some of the things Eckhart Tolle says. He talks about how a lot of us have pain bodies. Pain bodies basically वो एक चीज़ होती है. He calls this semi-autonomous thing that gets ट्रिगर्ड जब हमारे ईगो पे कोई बात लगती है. कुछ भी हो सकती है. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, तुम मुझे थप्पड़ मारोगे लेकिन मुझे कुछ और याद आ जाएगा और मैं एकदम एग्रीवेट हो जाऊंगा एंड आई विल फायर बैक एट यू. मे बी दैट slap reminds me like of an abusive father, something like that. But his point is, the next step from being in presence is to realize that we all live with massive pain bodies, suffering that is accumulated over many, many years or many months that we have no idea actually runs our life. तो उससे बाहर निकलने का तरीका क्या है? It's really a great book. Talks a lot about how you can let the ego, slowly lose its grasp on you and live a more present life. ये जो presence वाला concept है ना, in fact I was out with a friend last night और हम लोग बैठ के बात ही कर रहे थे. He was telling me about how he read The Power of Now and how it helped him in a dark time in his life. And one practice from The Power of Now that I think you can do maybe as an actionable takeaway from this video is Eckhart Tolle says whenever you feel inundated by your thoughts, जब ख्यालों का जो भूचाल है वो बहुत ज़्यादा हो जाए, one thing you can do is ask yourself, I wonder what thought comes next. इस simple declaration को करके होता क्या है कि for a brief moment you are able to create a gap in your thinking, maybe a millisecond. That एक वो बोलते हैं ना अनुभव की डुबकी, जैसे ओशो बात करता है. That is that little experience that should perhaps set you on a path to, or has definitely set me on a path to live more presently. In fact, to circle back to Hemant Suneem की जो किताब है ना, The Things You Can See Only When You Slow Down, which I just mentioned, the last chapter in the book is called Your Original Face. And he talks about हम इतनी तेज तरार तरीके से भाग रहे हैं अपने ambitions, अपनी worries, अपनी insecurities को लेके, या जो हमारे समाज की स्पीड बढ़ी गई है thanks to COVID and what not. We have forgotten who we originally are. क्या हमारा जो original चेहरा है ना will only manifest once we take a deep breath. And in that deep breath, we can actually see the stories from our friends that we constantly miss because we're distracted, the good things our parents have done, the clarity which will come, जो उस breath से there will be clarity into what your relationships actually look like. You can almost have like a bird's eye view, sort of become objective about yourself when you breathe. The general nature of both a new earth and the things you can see when you slow down is to live a slower, more contemplative life. And I think it's possible while still fulfilling your goals. And I'm going to continue seeing कि hypothesis कैसे carry out होता है, because I've certainly felt burnout a lot of times in my life where my ambitions have literally tyrannized my brain to the point where I can't function. So yeah, by the way, this is a September reading list, well in time. I hope you enjoyed. If there are other books that you think I should talk about, leave them in the comments. Baki, uske beyond. Have a productive day and see you in the next video. Shaatir out.